Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. To start things off, Bitcoin leads the recovery phase of the cryptocurrency market with a 4% increase, while altcoins have of course followed. Ethereum is up by around 6%. And Chainlink and many other altcoins have spiked by roughly around 17%. Following a few days of severe price drops, the cryptocurrency market is in a state of recovery today. Bitcoin has surged from, it was actually 10,100, depending on where you looked especially, to nearly 10,800 US dollars, while Ethereum is trading above 340 US dollars after bottoming at 10,130 a few days ago. The primary cryptocurrency started recovering yesterday and hovered around $10,400 in the past 24 hours. Bitcoin continued upwards and just a few hours ago peaked at almost 10,800 US dollars on Binance. It has since retraced a tiny bit. I saw an enormous amount of websites talking about that Bitcoin was going to go back up. And then as I'm going through the timeline of news, as it were, roughly around the time analysts were saying that Bitcoin looked like it was going to hit 10,800, all the websites started lighting up, pretty much saying that we were going to fall back because the price had risen too high, too fast, and therefore 10,650 was imminent. And here we are, self-fulfilling prophecy. So the market has started to recover. Who knows what it means? Who knows if there's still going to be news that we are correlated to stock markets or whatever the actual situation might be. Regardless of what might be happening currently with Bitcoin's price, understand that behind the scenes, a lot is taking place to make sure that Bitcoin actually does move up. And we're going to be covering some of those topics in this video today. Another really popular story that ties, I guess, directly into the price portion of everything. Bloomberg, expects Bitcoin to jump over 15,000 US dollars. The company based its reasonings on fundamentals like Bitcoin's rising hash rate and also the 30-day average of active Bitcoin addresses. As the Bitcoin market gets more sophisticated, its nature of predictions is becoming more subtle due to the increased fundamentals to consider. At the time of writing, the asset was trading around time of writing 10,300, give or take, having dropped 5.7% in the past 7 days and down approximately 1% in the past 24 hours. After the 2020 Bitcoin halving, there were several model theories indicating the asset's plausible future market price. Notably, almost all of them were under using the past performance of the asset in relation to the past halving. Wow. For some reason, the word past is like tripping me up over and over, not really sure why. However, due to 19, more factors have been included, hence complicating the asset. Mostly crazy speculation has been the lead in Bitcoin prior rallies. Its price rose astronomically during the first decade, attracting huge attention both from retail traders and institutional investors. Where's the other really interesting part? Is this somewhere around here? Yeah, they talk about the hash rate and all this other stuff going up. Bitcoin adoption has completely gone insane. And this is why, and first of all, even backtracking a tiny bit, for those of you who remember one of my manic episodes where I was sitting here screaming at the microphone and I kept on saying that Bitcoin was undervalued. Do you remember the price that I kept on saying that Bitcoin should be above? It was exactly 15,000. When you talk about the massive adoption of Bitcoin, the locking up of Bitcoin, the even DeFiization of Bitcoin, and companies who are, and I guess even normal people who are locking up their Bitcoin in these different protocols and stuff like that, you get a perfect storm for an actual price increase. This is why I don't really, because I'm going to try and actually explain this, because usually a lot of times I get kind of flustered and I'm like, it'll take far too long to explain all this. So I'm going to try my darndest to actually put this into words. The reason why the cryptocurrency space, and even more so just Bitcoin, why I don't believe there's an actual correlation to the stock market, like an actual like movement correlation. It's one thing to have, the fear index be based off of it. That's something completely different. If you see something burning across the street, you may also assume that yours may burn as well, and therefore you temporarily sell off. But as far as like an actual long-term or even like a reality correlation, I don't think it exists. when you talk about, first of all, people, when we talk about a correlation to the stock market, it has to do with the fact that, you know, they both have numbered prices. But then you get into the discussion of, well, companies are also, they have billions of different stocks out there, and they're also sometimes cutting their stocks in half to have double the amount or making it into fourths or whatever the actual case might be. And then you talk about Bitcoin's actual supply, 21 million, got it, good. We all know that part. But people aren't just buying like half of a Bitcoin. We have tons of companies around the world who are buying massive amounts of Bitcoin. We've had the metrics before for the actual, not the lost Bitcoin, the Bitcoin that's inside of wallets and only inflows are coming into it, not outflows. So these people are heavily accumulating. Then you have the actual numbers for the potential 4 to 6 million Bitcoin that are lost and gone forever. We've gone over this many other times. We don't have to discuss it. You get into the numbers of Grayscale, the New York Stock Exchange, Fidelity, the Winklevoss twins, and all these other people. The strained, can I say that, amount of Bitcoin that's actually out there isn't a lot. I discussed this with one of my friends a couple days ago, like actually trying to go over the numbers by ourselves, because I'm really shocked that there has been no proper metric for this yet. By the time all the dust has settled, remember the news that we got sometime in the summer? It said that if, first of all, after the halving had happened, I think a week after it had happened, I think 14,000 Bitcoin had been mined. Grayscale alone had accumulated 19,000 Bitcoin. And I sat there pulling my hair out trying to explain to everyone in the video. And I guess no one really cared or didn't see the significance of that. And they said if they kept on following on that specific, on that one thing, Grayscale alone would own 10% of all the Bitcoin. 1 out of every 10 Bitcoin circulating or moving around in the ecosystem, they would own. You get into the news of how many miners there are in China, how many of them are mining Bitcoin every single day. You get into all these places that we've been talking about in, not Ireland, what's it called? In Iceland, in Canada, in Texas, in Nevada, in Alaska. And these are all the places that we just know about. Not even considering the news that we just had a day ago that Iran has also legalized cryptocurrency mining. Them and Venezuela in a slightly dystopian way, what have you, but still legalized and, you know, made legal for people to do so. So we can also assume that people are also doing that there in mass as well. These Bitcoin that are being accumulated and or created by the machines aren't going to be sold off. This is a very huge misconception. A lot of times people believe that these people are simply creating these coins to sell them off en masse. This is why whenever we do get news that this is happening, that it actually makes major headline news within the cryptocurrency space. Because this so-and-so company, they minted X amount of Bitcoin and they sold off 1/10 of them to be able to pay their electricity bills. But that's always like a kind of an anomaly. Like these things aren't being created by, like these people aren't creating, they're not investing millions of dollars to create these huge, gigantic warehouses full of machines to create Bitcoin to simply sell all of them off back into the market. The point is to create them and hold them forever. That's kind of how everything goes. The adoption rate that we've seen, and I wonder if it's actually in this video. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's wait. Maybe yes. I think it is. The actual adoption rate that we have witnessed and have seen over the last 3 years is something that I think the human mind maybe can't simply actually comprehend. This is why I said stay with me, you know, try and bear with me as I go through all the thoughts in my head. The entire movement of the market in 2017 was a huge amount of hype. I think Bitcoin going from 900 to around 2,000 to 3,000 US dollars was probably more of a realistic move in 2017, simply based off of the actual movement that we had going towards it and the other companies who were talking about getting into the cryptocurrency space. Everything after that, I think, was a huge amount of hype, and it mainly had to do with the movement of the ICO market and everyone trying to get into Bitcoin and trying to get as much money as they possibly could from this new asset that was rising rapidly in value. It was speculation city. It was people were wondering if YouTube was going to add Bitcoin or Dogecoin to their platform. You can Google it, trying to see if they were going to have it as like a tipping feature. Same exact thing with Twitter. It was, are you going to have Bitcoin and Dogecoin as a tipping feature, and not as like a bot moving around on the system, but like an actual integrated thing where you could click right here. You'd be able to actually tip directly through the Twitter system. Even before Reddit made their own coin, whatever that coin is, because no one's using it. There were also speculation that people were going to be... for some reason, it was always Dogecoin. Dogecoin was a very big coin in 2017, and once again, Bitcoin. There was just tons of speculation. Once the prices skyrocketed and everything started falling back down, we got to this situation where everyone was like, wait, it actually hit 20,000. That's when all the news started happening at the beginning of 2018, that all the cryptocurrency exchanges in the land, especially Coinbase, only cared about rich people. You can find all this news. It was one of the worst, not worst, it was one of the weirdest times in the cryptocurrency space, because they kind of gave up on us, the everyday average collector and or user and or accumulator, and pretty much said, we're going to set up our infrastructure for all the rich people who are going to be entering the market this year. And they meant 2018. What ended up happening was there was nobody entering the cryptocurrency space in 2018. Everyone was still kind of shooketh over what actually took place in the market. And around 2019 is when we started getting the news from back to NASDAQ and Fidelity and BlackRock and all these other rich families that they were actually into the cryptocurrency space and they would be spending tons of money, yada, yada, yada. The idea for me of correlation runs no stronger than just fear. Seeing that other assets are going down and therefore you're also selling as well. But even then, I think it's like a coordinated fear, if that kind of makes any sense to you, in the fact that the same exact people who, once again, who control the stock market, a lot of these people have moved over to the cryptocurrency space. So a lot of times I just assume if the price of crypto is actually going down, it's simply the same exact people saying that market went down. We can also drag ours down as well to be able to accumulate Bitcoin at a cheaper price, if you kind of want to say that. Bitcoin is incredibly undervalued, underpriced, just based off of the news that we've gotten. And it's like a very thin line of news. Like it's kind of like the news that you get from your politicians and your leaders. You get the bottom of the barrel kind of news, but you miss the actual top of what's happening. Think of what it means for a company to invest $500 million into a digital... Bitcoin is a number on a screen. There was a discussion at a company, hey, we should put $500 million into this number on a screen and accumulate as many numbers on this screen as we possibly can. You understand what it takes for the shareholders to have to be like, yes, this is a wonderful, great idea. Please, by all means, use $500 million of our reserves to put it into this. It's clear to me that something is taking place. I still think we are very, very close to a price breakout, but the price breakout will be based off of, I think the price breakout will be based off of the accumulation that the rich people have been doing over the last several years that we finally know about. And it's only going to happen when people realize that on cryptocurrency exchanges, there just simply aren't enough Bitcoin for them to actually have or hold, or even just some type of a coordinated pump itself. Bitcoin should be nowhere near where it is right now. It should be well above, and I dare even say 15 to 18,000 just based off of current adoption. There was a recent podcast from What Bitcoin Did. I was listening to like the end of it. It was like a 2-hour podcast. He had Plan B and a whole bunch of other really smart Bitcoin people on the podcast that day, and they were all discussing where Bitcoin's price is and where they thought Bitcoin's price was going to go, and they were asking Plan B, yada yada, and a lot of it had to do with, like, they said it's not even the fact that we have these charts, it's just based off of just pure logic and adoption and how many people are in the cryptocurrency space and how many people are actually buying Bitcoin. When you look at the metrics of people who are buying these coins and these assets and just simply holding them, it shows that people have belief in the future that the prices are going to go up. So, I mean, whatever. I'm not even really done with my speech, what have you. We are talking about something that has been created 10 and a half odd years ago, that countries are clearly using and accumulating themselves. Like, that's the part that really kicks me in the face. It's not it's the accumulation by these mega companies. That's already one big, like, wow, that's absolutely insane that they believe so much, that they would put so much of their capital towards this. You have, like, we know that there are countries out there who are accumulating Bitcoin as well. If you even believe in, like, the long-term prospects of Bitcoin, what does that mean to you? I'm not going to name the countries. Like, but we know for a fact, we had news yesterday, There were 2 countries who legalized Bitcoin mining. Do you think that they're only allowing the people who are mining these coins to accumulate them, or are they also taking a chunk of the pie themselves? Just kind of think of it that way. There's also one in the far east that is north that is also accumulating Bitcoin en masse. We had news about that in 2018 and 2019, that they were apparently, allegedly, hacking exchanges from the south of them, and they are in possession of a huge amount of Bitcoin. So the accumulation from them is clearly going to continue to happen. The supply is going to rapidly dry up. I think we've really gotten to the point where if you don't know, you're just simply not going to know. That's kind of how it is. I think people will continue to tumble into the Bitcoin space. I think everyone's going to have to go through that. What is it called? It's like a 6, what do they call it? Like, not a 6 window metric. It's kind of like you have to hear about Bitcoin 6 times before you finally look into it. We've all been there. You hear from someone, you go, that sounds stupid. You hear from someone, oh, whatever. And by the 5th or 6th time, you want to look it up, but it still sounds really weird. I saw a couple people. Someone commented a couple days ago, and I even saw it also on Instagram as well when I saw a discussion between certain people, and someone wrote, well, Bitcoin's also a scam. Bitcoin's funny money. It had to do with it. I don't know if you've all seen this. There was a recent was this on Reddit? Somewhere in the internet, there was a recent auction, and a print, like a piece of paper, not the original, by Banksy, sold for over $1 million. Just a piece of paper. It shows manic behavior in all markets because people are trying to figure out where to put their money as the stock market appears to be dropping. And people were discussing kind of like there are other safe havens for you to put your money. You got this, you got that. And of course, people didn't really agree, because people never agree as to what a safe haven is at that current time until years later when we figure out, oh, that was indeed a safe haven. And people were like, well, Bitcoin's funny money. Bitcoin's kind of so-and-so. I would never put my money into Bitcoin. I'd rather put my money into art. But like the fact that people still don't get what Bitcoin is. But I mean, to be fair, they're also not here. Like, think of the news that I do every single day. Think of the stuff that we've discussed. If they don't hear this news, it's not going to mean anything to them. If they heard that there was a company who had spent $500 million just buying up Banksy prints or Banksy art, it might have made a bit more sense to them in that way. Maybe they only understand art as an investment vehicle. I mean, I guess the point to be made is that, to me at least, Bitcoin is heavily undervalued. It's not because I own some. It's not because I want the market to go up. It's just more of a logical. The up and down movements that we've had over the last couple of years, I think that all of them have been falsified. Maybe 2 or 3 were correct, and I don't mean the movements down from 14,000 to 3,500. That was thanks to BSV, so I don't even think of tipping my hat to you. Yeah, I really don't know how much more I can say on this particular topic, but when the price moves up, it will finally move up, and I think it'll only move up once the accumulation has really, once all the rich people sit back and they're like, okay, cool, we got it. We got all that we need. And because you do need fractions of it out there for everyone else to kind of accumulate. This is how you continue pushing up the price higher and higher. They were discussing on the podcast who's going to buy Bitcoin at these prices, and it's like when you get indications, and I don't even dare to say normal people, when people who aren't into the cryptocurrency space get a real indication of what inflation is, ask your friends if they know what inflation is. Ask them if they know what fractional banking reserves are. All these things, they have no idea what's actually taking place in the monetary world. They said when people finally realize that they're going to the supermarket and that milk that they saw yesterday that was $1.99 is now $3.25, and they go, okay, why? Maybe it's like premium milk now. The next day it's $3.40 and then $3.55, which is also happening in the States right now, according to my friends there. They keep telling me that prices keep going up in the supermarkets. When all this happens, when people realize that interest rates have fallen below 0% and their bank accounts are being siphoned because they're below the rates are low 0%, and people kind of look back, it's always this moment. It's always this, oh, I wish I coulda, woulda, shoulda, had done it. And people realize that they are either broke, jobless, or trying to figure out where to put their money in some sort of way to make some kind of money because they are in a precarious situation. And they look and finally watch on the news that Bitcoin has hit 47,000, 89,000. Plan B believes that during this current cycle, we are going to see a $288,000 Bitcoin whenever that might happen. He still believes by next year. That's what his graph says. It's not even a whenever that might. His graph says, and many other banking institutions all say, that by 2021, either mid-2021 or the beginning of it, we will see a $288,000 Bitcoin. That's when people will simply go, oh, I should have put my money into that before. And this is when the leftover Bitcoin that's barely circulating around will start to be accumulated by other people. And this is when I mentioned this before, and I know it's going to happen. I give it a 4-year window. We're going to start having people who are bragging. Not only do they own fractions of Bitcoin, but they own 10,000 Satoshis. Like, how, man, I own 10,000 Satoshis. That's freaking crazy. I can't believe I have so much. And then you realize even right now, I think a million Satoshis is $100 or something like that. Yeah, 10,000. Yep. It's $100 for a million Satoshis. So I know we're going to get to this point in the future where people are bragging that they own Satoshis in general and how rare they are and all this other stuff. Anyway, what's this one? Yeah, here's another one. Very, very popular news. It says Bitcoin is really worth 15,000 based on this key adoption metric. The adoption rate has been staggering. It's completely blown me away this year. I did not think that we would come this far. I'm not sure if 19 simply accelerated it or exactly what's really taking place, if you will, but it's abundantly clear to me. I noticed, to be completely honest with you, my views go down dramatically whenever I don't have a really hypey news story in the title. And I don't put hype there on purpose. Sometimes I do it just to kind of bait people into realizing that they're ridiculous. Like remember one time I had it, I was like, this coin went up by 15,000%. That was one of my most popular videos because people love to hear that they're going to get scammed. I'm not sure what it is. People love this, like, oh my gosh, that coin already went up by 15,000%. It's clearly going to go up by another 15,000%. It's complete nonsense. Whenever I don't have something that Bitcoin, and it's crazy. It's crazy. When my title doesn't say that Bitcoin has hit $13,000, $14,000, $15,000, $945,000, whatever per coin, my views start going down. It's because people only want happy news. But the issue is that people also only buy into the market when there is happy news. Doesn't that seem kind of weird? Like if you actually believed in Bitcoin, even if for a 5-year prospect of it as an investment vehicle, I would, this is how I deal with it, I'd be looking for instances where the price dipped down so that I could accumulate more. If I really believe, if you get excited over the idea that Bitcoin has hit 14,000, this means somewhere in your mind, you believe that Bitcoin has the possibility of hitting $100,000 per coin. It's somewhere in your mind. It can do it. It can go there. It hit 14,000. This is it. The prices are going to rise. Wouldn't you then make sure to keep checking the market to see if it had fallen below the current level so that you could accumulate more to actually make more money down the road? Maybe it's just me. Tell me if my idea is kind of off. If you're looking to buy a house and that house one day is 150,000 and you're like, okay, kind of cool. The house goes up to $250,000 and you're like, that became prime real estate. Something happens in the news over the course of a 3-week period. The house is no longer $250,000. It's now like 180,000. You would still try to acquire that house because you saw the potential that was actually happening around it, or at least I would. I would think it's undervalued because whatever happened in the news is clearly going to pass, and the area is still booming. There's still cafes, bars, restaurants. A whole bunch of people are walking around. There's new universities being built. It's almost a school year starting. I would still think of accumulating or buying that house. You wouldn't simply go, oof, well, the price went down, let me not even touch it, and then the price goes back up again, and then you become more interested. That's one of the main things that really confuses me about the entire... I was never really into stocks. I had mutual funds many moons ago, but I never really kept up with the stock market as such. Does that also happen in the stock market where prices are, rapidly going up and everyone's like, buy, and then they dip a tiny bit and everyone's like, ugh, it's poison now. I don't know. It's clear that the price should be higher. I don't know if it's manipulation. I listen. I feel that a part of it is actually manipulation in some sort of way. Whether it be, I don't think there's a term good manipulation. It's just more of a, whatever the actual case might be, this is simply what's happening at the moment. Just understand that it's being accumulated, not just by you, not just by your friend, but by very rich people. I personally think, and this, I'm tipping my hat to my very close friend in Florida. Yes, you. I think we are on the verge of something, and I'm choosing these words because they fit catastrophically wonderful. I think the global economic system is on the edge of a cliff. I think we are seeing hyper automation happen right before our eyes. I think we are seeing an enormous amount of job losses that are not going to be coming back. That's the catastrophic part. And at the same exact time, it almost feels like, this is just how I feel, this is not me telling you how to feel, that there's this huge movement from A to B by rich people, and it is abundantly clear, who are trying to move their assets from stocks, from gold, from other places, and they're moving it into art. And I firmly believe that they're also moving it into crypto. I think that they had an indication years ago that something bad was going to happen. Remember in 2008 and 2009, then move forward to around 2012, 2013. How many of you remember watching the news and people declaring that there was going to be a stock market crash that year? It's not that I think these people were crazy. I think the actual metrics were showing that things were once again shaky because 2008 and 2009 were never solved. Money was simply thrown at it the same exact way that money's being thrown at everything right now. It was the same exact thing. What I think happened is that people were like, oh, these people are crazy. And then they had renewed faith when that year it didn't simply fall, because behind the scenes, someone was, just because we got news this year that the Federal Reserve and other so-and-so-and-sos were pumping the markets to kind of keep them afloat, does not mean that it hasn't happened other years. So I think this is why we had the news that since 2014, all these mega stock exchanges and all these mega rich firms, they all line up. The Novogratzes, the other guy, the one we were talking about yesterday, the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, Fidelity, yada, 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 had all been into crypto since 2014. Why? Doesn't that seem odd that that's the exact same time frame that we were hearing that there was going to be a stock market crash, and they heavily all got into crypto, started building the framework for it? I think rich people know something. Not sure what it is. I think that they maybe understand that the world's economy is now on, not even toothpicks, those are a bit too strong, I think on Q-tips, cotton swabs. I think they're just kind of floating as best they can to keep themselves up. And this is why we see such a huge amount of movement into the cryptocurrency space and all this other news that we keep getting from Coinbase and Binance and Gemini Twins about their over-the-counter sales. I think they're moving into crypto. And I think this movement into crypto is going to solidify the cryptocurrency space. If they said it on the podcast as well, for constantly referencing the podcast. They said they think the point of no return is 50,000. They said a lot of firms actually won't get into Bitcoin until it hits 50,000, because you need to be able to tell your other shareholders and all these other people, we're getting into this asset at 50,000 because it's now worth it, and also because of the actual liquidity of the market. They need to know that there won't be these wild swings, and they need to know that they'll be able to, I guess, in essence, also accumulate as much as it's the 50,000 number. And 50,000 solidifies it because it'll have, for those of you who don't know the actual numbers, it'll have a $1 trillion market cap. And a $1 trillion market cap is, I guess, as significant as someone being able to say, like, I want to become a millionaire. Why don't you want to become an 800,000 there? It's kind of that same kind of thing. Anyway, it's a very big topic, because I'm certain that on the first side that I was telling you about, with all the job losses and the people screaming for UBI and we need money and there's no money kind of thing, if people are accumulating something and have been since it was $200, $4,000, $8,000, $10,000 US dollars, and this asset next year, so saith Plan B, goes up to $288,000 per coin, the separation between the haves and the have-nothings is clearly divided. It's an earthquake down the middle. It's a chasm that can no longer be jumped over. And then you get the news, if Bitcoin hits 288,000, they were all saying that they think that the next phase, I think the name of the actual podcast is so it's what Bitcoin did, but the name of the episode was we're in phase 5. I think that's what it was, and it was kind of like this institutional mega adoption that's also happening as well. I think the next phase that they said was going to take place, and so did Andreas Antonopoulos and all these other people, was the actual governments, like openly saying, like, yes, we are accumulating. I guess maybe the news that we've been getting from, almost said names, from this place and that place and the other place and all the 5 countries, maybe wasn't enough because they simply didn't go on stage and say, yes, we are accumulating because we're trying to go against the US dollar. But when you hit $1 trillion, they said that's going to happen. When you hit $288,000, you're going to start getting smaller countries saying, we can no longer do what we've been doing with our fiat currency. We need to move on. We need to have something else. We need to have another peg. So we're going to start using Bitcoin. And they said at that point, it's the point of no return. And then you get back to that situation once again where I just said, you had people who've been accumulating since 200, since 4,000, since 8,000, since 10,000, and the Bitcoin goes up to 1 million. Imagine the people who don't even have 1 million Satoshis. Where does that leave them? The world is going to look very different. And this is if everything plays out as I expect that it's going to. I think we're further ahead than I thought we would be right now, adoption-wise, but I still think that price-wise we are not where at all where we should be. Yeah, I said everything I had to say. Sorry it took so long. I'm actually not sorry at all. Like I think it had to be said because a lot of times I see people in the comment section saying, well, just say it. Like, say what you have to say. But it's really this like, there's so much to be said about it. We are leaving the old legacy system. It is clear when you get news and discussions by countries that they're afraid of stablecoins. What does that mean? That means that the adoption rate even of stablecoins has gone so far that they are afraid of not being able to control it because people are simply going to use these new metrics of value instead of using the ones that we were told to use over the last 100, 150, 200 years. What happens when this digital asset that has been around for just 10 years is adopted worldwide? When we get billions of people who are then using it and the price skyrockets, what happens to the people who don't have Bitcoin? Like, what is the metric for all these things going on? Like, what is to come? Like, I think we all maybe feel it. I know I feel it. I can feel what's in the air. I feel the change is there. Maybe people ignore it. I'm not really sure, honestly. Anyway, yes, you know exactly how I feel about all this. To a T. You know exactly what I'm thinking. And a lot of this has come about because I've seen what has happened to the cryptocurrency space over the last couple of years. I've seen the ups, I've seen the downs, I've seen the garbage, I've seen the coins evaporate, but one of them has stuck around, and this is why I feel that one coin, at least now, based on these metrics, is definitely going to make it. And it's because the adoption solely relies constantly around this one thing. Anyway, alrighty. And without further ado, because that was a lot of ado, let's move on. Next up, in an effort to boost participation in DeFi and also on their blockchain, TRON recently entered a new partnership to onboard wrapped Bitcoin and wrapped Ether onto the TRON blockchain. This is quite important news. This is quite important news for TRON, given that wrapped Bitcoin is particularly a widely used Bitcoin token. Per the announcement of Thursday, the Ethereum rival reached a strategic partnership with BitGo, a qualified digital currency custodian. Wow, who wrote this? It says noteworthily. I want to meet the person who wrote this. Wow. Noteworthily, that's not a word. Wrapped Bitcoin is a joint initiative of BitGo, Ren, formerly Republic Protocol, Kyber Network, and others. Although the project is now overseen by Wrapped Bitcoin, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, BitGo reportedly holds the cryptocurrency reserve when Bitcoin is wrapped. And they're trying to have Bitcoin and Ether be put onto TRON as TRC20 tokens. Wow, original. We had news before that TRON is desperately trying to enter the the DeFi market. I think it's just another ploy to try and make sure that they remain relevant, because no, not even that I assume, I assure you that the moment DeFi is done and DeFi becomes an ICO-esque thing of the past, we will never hear the words Tron and DeFi in the same sentence again. They'll have moved on to something else. I think it is, and I say that because I don't even believe that the DeFi that's happening on Ethereum is relevant, if you kind of want to say that, because all the stuff that we keep getting is just food coins. Nothing that we've heard is not a mimic or a fork of something else. Like, nothing has been original to the point where I'm like, wow, that could actually change lives. Wait, you mean you're doing that on top of Ethereum? It's always a lock up your coins to make other coins and then use those new coins to bet on other things to be able to get yields that you weren't able to get during the actual normal cryptocurrency market. That's all it's actually been. The only silver lining, and it's like a very thin, it's like a tooth floss based silver lining, is that we're going to have another metric for how much Bitcoin and Ether are going to be locked away again. I do not assume that there are going to be millions of people who are going to be locking up their Bitcoin and or Ether into Tron. Just a huge assumption. However, if this does catch on, I assume we will then hear EOS and many other coins trying to do the exact same thing. This would also only then strain the price of the circulating supply of Bitcoin even further. And then we'll have a more accurate metric of how much Bitcoin is actually locked away as prices are going up. Anyway, yes, of course, Tron is the copycat coin. Everything they've done since the very beginning, you can look it up. I'm not joking. I'm not lying. You can look all of it up. This is why we have the internet. Every single thing that's happened in life is on the internet. You can look up all the Tron news over the last 3 years, and all of it has just been a mimic of what other coins have been doing in an effort to stay relevant because it's Tron. Here's the actual press release thing right here. It says Tron and BitGo strategic alliance takes DeFi to new heights. Absolutely wonderful. And without further ado, let's move on. In a story that has completely shocked and mystified me, a recent post from Glassnode has called UniSwap's decentralization into question. What? While insinuating the platform's developers might have intentionally misled the community about how the team's allocation of Uni tokens will vest over time. I can't believe it. I've never heard a story like this before in my life. UniSwap's team, investors, and advisors have been allocated 40% of all Uni tokens, with 21.51% of that figure going to the latter of the two. It seems that the distribution of these tokens, which was meant to take place over 4 years, currently lacks a public schedule. It appears that the team and investor tokens are not locked. Wow, they said, or Glassnode said, while the distribution schedule pictured above shows them vesting gradually, the tokens allocated to the UniSwap team and investors are currently held in regular Ethereum addresses. Wow. With no transfer restrictions. In contrast, the governance token treasury are locked up in smart contracts and will be released programmatically over time. Wow. Shocked. Glassnode also criticized the project's governance, noting that in order to submit a proposal, here's the best part right here. Everyone open your ears. Open them wide. Glassnode also criticized the project's governance, noting that in order to submit a proposal, one needs to possess at least 1% of the entire supply of Uni, which in a perfect world, if you had an equal distribution amongst people, would still only equal to 100 people. You have to have 1% of the entire supply. How many people do you know are currently in possession of 1% of the entire supply of anything? 1%. And I'm going to go out on a limb and just say that there are probably tons of other people out there who got in early and probably own around a good 3%, 2.8%, 4.1%. You know what that does? That makes it impossible for anyone else to actually have a portion of that 100% then. Cumulatively, if you have 3 people who have 10% of the votes, what does that do for the other people who are trying to vote? So I'm going to assume, rough estimation, there could be at any given time roughly around maybe 17 people on the planet who would still have a say in exactly what could happen to the protocol. And I assume during the voting governance, you have to have a majority. So imagine those 17 people, it would still be, if you and 8 of your friends have the most tokens, you all decide, I don't want that to happen on the protocol. Well, it gets knocked down. Sorry, the community voted. As the entire supply has not yet been released in circulation, however, Glassnode indicates that the threshold is actually, you have to have 8% of the current circulating supply. The post further concluded that the only entity who currently has enough Uni tokens to submit a governance proposal appears to be Binance. The post further concluded that the only entity who has enough Uni to submit a governance proposal appears to be Binance. The post further concluded that only Binance has enough tokens. It says a centralized exchange in direct competition with UniSwap. As a result, unless somebody can lobby 10 million Uni worth of delegated voting power and at least 40 million votes, community-led governance is essentially impossible for the time being. How wonderful. And the best part? I know that there are people right now who are listening to this who hold Uni. You've rolled your eyes. You might have even clicked away because you don't want to hear it. Remember years ago when we had tons of people who were hyper Bitcoin maximalists, and they used to, scream at me whenever I said the letters XRP. And we got news, like mathematical news, that one country in the world controlled more than 53% of the actual mining hash rate, and people lost it. That means nothing. How dare you say that that's so-and-so? Because you want the perfect world that you've created in your head to continue going on forever. There are going to be problems in all of these things. The issue is don't declare that there isn't a problem or that you've solved the problem or that governance is actually one thing. If the people from UniSwap or this has happened multiple times. This is not the first thing that has mimicked a decentralized organization, whatever you kind of want to call them, that has said that we allow people to vote on our platform and then we get the actual numbers and people can't vote. The issue is that their community never actually cares about the voting. They're okay with their being ahead of the dragon. This is why people don't understand decentralization. Decentralization should mean, in essence, you don't have to hold 1% of anything. That is nonsense. In a completely spread out scenario, you would still only have 100 people governing something. If you are trying to be something that is worldwide, that millions of people can use, make it so that you only have to have 0.01% of a token to be able to vote. It's decentralization, not really decentralization. You tell people, hey, we can all vote. We are a community and we all control the governance of this protocol. And then you get the numbers and it's just Binance. What are people not getting? This is why I have such an issue with all these DeFi things. They're either clones of each other, or every other day we keep getting news from Glassnode or some other company with a weird name who keeps declaring all of these things. But I know deep down that you don't care. You can scream as loud as you want. You only care because you put your money into these things, because you drank the Kool-Aid, because you thought that someone was being truthful and honest with you when you read all of these things. That's not how any of these things are going to work. It's the same exact thing. First of all, 1, I hold EOS. 2, remember the thing that we heard before, that everyone who was holding a token would be able to vote and equally and all this other stuff, and then we found out that the distribution of the EOS tokens was completely out of control, and the people who can actually have, remember 2 years ago, who can have an effect on the actual blockchain were only 21 different organizations who were actually like the voting on the platform. 21 different nodes, I think they were calling them. 21. Not the estimated, I think, 500,000 people who were into EOS. Imagine if you had you allowed the entire community to be able to vote all the time. Like, what power you would have, how much strength you would have as an entire community. Like, we are all able to vote. Our vote matters. We are able to do this on the protocol. We changed it all together. It happened 51%. That's totally fine. There were 3.8 million people who actually voted. None of these protocols want you to be in control. It's always this kind of thing where you're someone gives you a thumbs up and says, you're amazing, you're awesome. But behind the scenes, they make all the rules. I don't understand. Whatever. I'm not going to waste any more of my breath, at least in this video, because this is going to continue to happen over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It's going to happen for years and years and years until people realize, oh, we should have only been getting, potentially, allegedly, maybe, should have only been buying Bitcoin. People never want to hear. How many other times I told people years ago, if you're whatever, all the people who used to be watchers of the channel and used to scream at me that IOTA is going to become the #1 coin. Lumens is going to pass by XRP. Tron is going to do so-and-so. WorldCoin is going to completely blast everything out of the ocean. What do you mean you're not invested in Neo? And then we get news about how crappy these coins are. All the time we get like actual news. Like, it's not even like it's just me saying it. We have actual companies who like do the mathematical work and they'll tell you exactly how bad everything is. And then we still get people fighting. No, this coin is amazing. And then the coin disappears from the news, from topics, from discussion. And it's like, where do those people go? Did you just find a brand new coin to buy? That's absolutely wonderful. Somebody mentioned it in the comment section. Don't think I didn't see your comment. How I was lying to people about UniSwap and how amazing UniSwap was because they had been airdropped all these coins and they made tons of money. And that's wonderful. You found a way to be at the top of the pyramid. You found a way to be able to be at the very top, one of the very first people to get into it, to be able to get these tokens allocated to you. What about the other people? What about everyone else who got into this thing as well after you because they saw these things popping up? What about the other people who got into this coin? What's the other coin? Not the unicorn coin. It's, oh gosh, what is it? The one that popped up to 40,000 and then fell back down to 22,000. You got in early. You were able to say, this is amazing because I made so much money. What about the other people who also got into this thing, who you coerced to get into this thing so that they could lose their money? It's absolute nonsense. I know that no one actually cares about. I think I may be one of the very few people. I'm sure there are people listening here right now who may also be there. I can't see your faces or your hands being raised if you are, who actually cares about decentralization. Like, I think it's such an important thing. We've lived in a world where there's always been a king. We've named them in different ways. Dictator, Kaiser, president, all across the world. It's always been the same. There's always been a head. Imagine if the country that you lived in, if everyone had an equal voice. If things were, imagine everyone you know, everyone in your country, everyone in your province, everyone in your, I don't know where you all live. If you all had a Bitcoin node and you all had a say in the actual creation of your currency. Do you understand how powerful that is for people to have control over money? To people to be able to say, to be able to put forth proposals yourself onto an actual place. They get voted up, and then imagine you live in a country with 80 million people, and all 80 million people are able to vote on what happens to your money. Like, it's your decision and not 5 people sitting behind the closed door. This is why decentralization is so powerful. This is why, like, whenever we get news about like people creating new mining farms and stuff like that for Bitcoin, I'm like, okay, like I breathe a slight sigh of relief, even if it is like the dystopian 2 countries we were talking about a couple of days ago. It's still incredible because it means that the network is still expanding. It's still growing. It makes it so that in the future, if Bitcoin does take off, you, your family, your kids, your grandkids will have a system. They'll have a network that can't be destroyed by simply one place. We can have a country who completely loses their minds and they just try to smash all the computers. We'll still have 180 other countries who still have their computers running. And the other computers that were destroyed by that country, they can simply go, let's put some more online in our countries. It creates a world where everyone not only has access to money, but everyone has access to the system. The system can't be destroyed because it's owned by everyone. That's the power of Bitcoin. This is why Bitcoin's network effect is so powerful. Why so many people are drawn to it. When you hear investors talking about why they got into Bitcoin, it usually has to do with the money and so, but they always talk about the network effect. It's the fact that so many people keep joining the network, and Bitcoin is so strong right now that in no uncertain terms, it's very difficult to ban it. You can scream out, "You're banned. No one can use you here," but people can still use it. It's not an app. It's not something that people can just shut off. Someone can't simply say, "I don't like the way that people are dancing on this thing," and then they shut the whole thing down. That's why Bitcoin is so important, because it keeps growing every single day. The more people that get into it, this is why the news that we had, and I was like, I'm not going to buy them because they're too expensive. Once the price goes down, I will, of blockchain phones. When you have a phone that costs $199 and you have your cryptocurrency locked in that phone, whether thumb protected, eye protected, however you protect your stuff, but you also you're running a Litecoin and Ethereum and a Bitcoin node, even if it's just a mini node, verifying transactions or doing something on the network. You still are part of the network. These things are not decentralized in any possible way. This is why whenever I hear the term DeFi, I cringe. I'm like, it's so terrible. Because it's just, and I'm sorry that I have to keep clearing my throat, is because I've been doing this for a while now. Ah, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I can't wait for people to get it. The problem is that people will get it when Bitcoin's too expensive for them to buy. That's the problem. It's like this repeat of history over and over and over. So, according to Glassnode, UniSwap, a DeFi token, is not decentralized at all. And apparently Binance has all the tokens to be able to vote on governance proposals alone. And even more so, if things were spread out, you would still have to have 8% of the circulating supply to be able to do anything. And without further ado, we're going to move on. The news is heavily DeFi, as it has been for the last couple of weeks. As decentralized finance continues to grow, the Ethereum network has seen significant growth as well, indicated by increased network activity. Bitcoin is not left out of the growth, as the total number of Bitcoin tokenized on Ethereum continues to increase as well. Data from Dune Analytics and Glassnode once again suggest that Bitcoin net inflows onto DeFi increased by 10% in September, despite the recent price retracement. Doesn't have the actual numbers because they're actually a little bit insane. In July, $96 million worth of Bitcoin was moved on to Ethereum. Since then, Bitcoin's total net outflow. Oh, yeah. So apparently the amount of Bitcoin that has left cryptocurrency exchanges has almost matched that of going into DeFi. $2 billion was taken off of centralized exchanges, and $1.9 billion has moved on to DeFi. That's almost the entirety of it. That means people are moving all their Bitcoin off of crypto exchanges to move on to these actual platforms. And there's a little colorful chart right there. Despite this huge inflow, a report shows that as of the 8th of September, only 0.4% of Bitcoin's total supply was tokenized on Ethereum. It was roughly around 72,000 Bitcoin. That's still 72,000 Bitcoin locked into a protocol is still an enormous amount. This means there is room for more inflow into DeFi while CeFi continues to decrease. A lot more growth has been recorded since then, since the 8th of September. According to the data aggregator DeFi Pulse, the total number of Bitcoin locked in DeFi increased to 90,000 and is currently over 117,000 Bitcoin. Although the value fluctuates, this increase represents a 28% surge within just 2 weeks. We are very close to there being 1% of all Bitcoin locked inside of Ethereum. That's insane. While I do not agree with the DeFi craze, I know that it is going to continue to happen because people, I don't know if people need that rush. I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely going to continue taking place. If this rush continues, we are probably on the cusp of a situation where we get roughly around 2 to 3% of all circulating Bitcoin, or Bitcoin that's actually not lost and gone forever, locked inside of Ethereum. How would that even look then if we end up getting Ethereum 2.0? I think the number would increase even further. And it just, I mean, circle of crypto life, if you kind of want to say it. This would cause Bitcoin's price to go higher because there's less Bitcoin. The less Bitcoin that there is, more people would be willing to lock it inside of Ethereum to DeFi it and however they plan on doing it. But these numbers are crazy. Think of 1% of anything being locked inside of something else. That's really insane. Like, imagine 1% of all the world's gold being locked inside of a bunker, which I'm pretty sure it is, but like, that's a huge amount of something, especially when you talk about Bitcoin as digital gold, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, it's clear where all of this is going. I think the price decreases deter people. The same thing like I said earlier in the video. I think people see prices going down and they're like, ugh, not going to get into it. And the moment the price goes back up, that's when they get into it. But imagine all the people who left on the 6th of September. By the time they come back, they're greeted with the news that 1% of all Bitcoin has been now locked inside of Ethereum. Like, that's insane. Hope everyone gets I almost said the severity, the importance of that news. But, all right, let's move on. Also, in all the news that we get is just always insane. Like, it's always something really insane. The total value of stable coins that are in existence has now surpassed $20 billion US, reflecting the growing demand of investors looking to hedge their risks in both crypto and, it says, apparently because of 19. Data from Coinmetrics show that the total value of assets of all stablecoins breached $20 billion on Thursday, over a little more than 4 months after we broke $10 billion. 4 months ago, there were $10 billion worth of stablecoins. Today, it's now $20 billion. Stablecoins are digital tokens, the values of which are pegged to fiat currencies like US dollars, and there's that beautiful chart right there. This is nuts. That means that this is going to continue to happen, that this is not going to slow down anytime soon. That means at some point in the next year, if the math continues this way, we are going to probably have a $50 billion stablecoin supply going around. That's a massive amount, which means that if Bitcoin does then rise to $50,000 per coin and has a $1 trillion market cap, we are going to probably see a surge in more stablecoins being created for the market to handle and deal with and play with. That means we're going to have a 100. This is exactly this news right here is why we had the news over the last 2 days of the European Central Bank and whoever the other letter thing was talking about that stable coins were confusing and stable coins were a risk because of this chart right here. This chart right here is adoption. It's the supply being increased. But so we've heard from every single stablecoin creator that they only create them when they're getting reserves in the background from someone else who's putting money into their systems, because there is a demand for stablecoins when people are trading in the market. Apparently, you need the market for stablecoins to be hyper liquid for people to be able to trade their coins back and forth as more money enters the cryptocurrency space. What happens when we have a multi-trillion-dollar market cap? More stablecoins. The circumventing of current world monetary systems is here. When did the European Central Bank ever come out and say that something else, not that it was not directly a threat, but say that it was a problem? It's an issue. We need to make our own thing to stop those. If this chart continues, we heard that by 2024 yesterday, that's when I think there should be a finalization of a potential European Central Bank digital currency made. And I even think it's going to take a bit longer to actually get it out to the public. If this is the chart from September of last year to now, just imagine if Bitcoin did hit 288,000 US dollars. How high this stablecoin supply would rise. I don't think people understand the power of what's going on. We are in a world right now where you do not have to use your own fiat currency. If you so choose to do so, remember I had that video, I think it's called what Bitcoin can buy, or what can you buy with Bitcoin? You can buy everything with Bitcoin. And many other places also do the exact same thing with stablecoins. You can live a world just with stablecoins. What does that mean? You no longer touch your country's fiat currency. What does that mean for people who are in really hard hit economic places, who've gone through strong inflation, mega inflation, hyperinflation of 1 million %? Imagine they don't feel comfortable actually using Bitcoin for whatever reason because the price fluctuates, but they decide, let's download this app or this DApp and simply transact in something that is pegged to the US dollar or pegged to the pound or pegged to the euro. You can do all of this right now. The cryptocurrency space is so powerful. It's such an obscenely strong market, even regardless of our fluctuations. Don't look at the actual prices. The prices don't matter in this situation. Someone 10, 11 years ago created something that 11 years later now allows people to not ever, if we can completely not have to use the US dollar or anything else. Like, imagine this is also, I mean, it's dystopian, but imagine the power of Libra. I spoke about this yesterday in the video. I'm not going to go over it again. We are on the cusp of something obscenely, chaotically wonderful that is going to take place. There's no stopping it anymore. When you talk about, what's the term? It's kind of like putting the toothpaste back in the tube. That's exactly what it is. They said no matter what happens, no matter what goes on, even if someone decides one day to ban Bitcoin, it's gone. You can't use it anymore. It's gone forever. The idea of decentralization, like, we've already had a taste of it, and it's going to continue. It's not going to stop. This idea of this new world of finance. We now live basically parallel. Like, think of how far we've come, that even on traditional financial news outlets, when they talk about gold, they talk about silver, they talk about stocks, they talk about bonds, they talk about real estate, they have a segment where they talk about crypto. We are completely mainstream at this point, at least in the financial world. And we are, without having to really say it, a threat to the current system. This is why we keep getting news about regulation, about CipherTrace and all these other things. Because $20 billion. I know it's not as high as the trillions in actual circulating US dollars and debt and currency. I know all that. But for stablecoins have been around for about 2.5, 3 years. We had Tether in 2017, and then other coins slowly began to pop up. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Like, these things really get me going because I can see where all of this is leading. It's going to be frustrating for people who didn't see the signs. That's the nicest way of kind of saying it. Anyway, yes, stablecoin adoption is going to continue. We are going to continue to get news. There was also a news story I don't have in here because it was far too much news. I'll probably have it in a news I missed. There's a country who's trying to, which country? They're trying to, I think, ban the actual usage of stablecoins and like make it illegal. It's some really weird, odd news story. I'm gonna try and find it. It's not the States, but they're trying to ban it because they see that people could simply use those things over their own currency. Like, imagine what that does for the actual economic stability of a country. And the circumventing, like, imagine you have 5 people at the top of the pyramid who are creating something and telling everyone they're constantly printing, they're telling everyone to use it. It's garbage, use it. It's garbage, keep using it. Everyone's like, actually, we can download this app. And they all download an app or a DApp. And they start using Tether to transact value. They're no longer in an inflationary situation. Regardless of if Tether goes to 99 cents or to $1.01, they're still far more stable than their other thing. It's fascinating to think about that we have these things now. Oh boy. Alrighty. Let's move on to the last topic. And in also awesome news, researchers at the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance recently revealed that 100 million people around the world currently hold Bitcoin and other blockchain-based assets. In 2018, the second global crypto asset benchmark study estimated the number of identity-verified crypto users at roughly around 35 million people around the world. As of Q3 2020, there are up to 191 million accounts opened at cryptocurrency exchanges. As of today, there are 191 million accounts opened at cryptocurrency exchanges, a figure which doesn't include self-hosted wallets. That is on crypto exchanges. 191 million accounts, and that is not the amount of crypto that you have on your computer, on your phone, or on your ledger. These are also separate accounts. The researchers explained the significant increase. They said this 189% increase in users may be explained by both a rise in the number of accounts, which increased by 37%, as well as a greater share of accounts being systematically linked to an individual's identity, allowing us to increase our estimate of minimum user numbers associated with accounts on each service provider. Basically, the idea that, especially when you're on cryptocurrency exchanges now, you have to give your identity. This is kind of how it is. You have to show them who you are. But through this way, they're actually able to see that you are your own individual. You yourself on that one website didn't create 5 other accounts. These are individual accounts that were created. That's the insane part. They can actually see like these are completely different people. The study also highlights the geolocation of consumers, as crypto firms operating from North America and Europe report higher user activity, with the median firm indicating that 40% of total users are considered active. According to the researchers, this figure was much lower for APAC or APAC and Latin American-based firms, which reported a rate of 16% and 10% respectively. This is nuts. This goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning of the video. The adoption that we're seeing is staggering. And these are people who only have fragments of the coins. Like, think of the amount of people. There are tons of people I know who've gotten into crypto who've bought 1/10 of a Bitcoin, who bought 1/2 of a Bitcoin. I know a friend, bless his heart, he told me he wanted to buy Bitcoin, and he bought a whole Bitcoin that same day. And it shocked the heck out of me that I didn't know he was rolling like that. This is the nicest way of kind of saying it. What more can I say? Bitcoin is so undervalued based off of everything we were talking about. The usage around the world, the amount of people who have it, the amount of more people who are going to have it. Even if we have there should be like a future expectation. Because like, I'm pretty sure like there's like a mathematical graph to be able to see the network effect of Bitcoin. Like how many people are opening up Bitcoin accounts, how many people are accumulating Bitcoin and all these things. I'm sure it would look incredibly obscene from 2015 to where it currently is right now. And just even if we just did mathematically, did the average of that percentage increase per month, if we could do that and just continue seeing it going into the year 2024, it would be something that would completely blow our minds. Because the adoption rate is going to skyrocket. It's not going, I don't think it's going to continue at this pace. 191 million, I think we're not even halfway there, not even close to halfway there. When prices skyrocket, we're going to get more people. How many of you were here in 2017 and you remember prices were going nuts and your family members were calling you every 3 seconds asking you what's a Bitcoin? How do I buy one? It happened to me every single day. I remember I had friends visiting, walking down the street. 3 of them were asking, what is this thing? Have you heard about it? I guess they didn't even know that I had a channel. They were all asking me these same questions. It's nice to, if nothing else, at least see that the numbers are there. Like, I know that adoption is continuing. I know that more people are buying. We know that the companies are, the word accumulation doesn't even account for it anymore. Anyway, that's the People Worldwide Now Crypto Assets Cambridge Study News. And let's move on. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Tolek Banan, Snacky Chan, Auspicious Agile and Blockchain, Decentralized, Peter, Navarro Williams, David James, Attila the Han, Yasha Harari, Oscar Maldonado, Utopia 569, Moonman High, XRP, Joshua Vineyard, Martin Steuer, Nostromo, John Sarson, The Animal Reader, A Bibliophobia, Todd Mullis, Adam Graysick, Moher Maroni, Master Ventures in Thailand, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the World, Bankroll Network, Crypto Artist Coldy 3D, Damien, Setsuna, Richie Rich III, Vlad the Impaler, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Gardner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, Miller Hitch Test Every Day, and Kyle Skips Leg Day, Yes to Crypto, Bodie McBoatface, Anytime Fitness, Monk's Corner Staff, Arfmedic17, Bake Me a Cake, Tigara Macho Nisa, On Crypto with Lionel, thumbs up, Crayola Michelle, URL, and Bolero Bastos. Thank you all very, very much for your support. Thank you to everyone who is a member of the channel who clicked the little join button below. Thank you to everyone who is a clicker of affiliate links. Thank you to everyone who's still here, who heard through my ramblings and has enjoyed the show. I do thank all of you. Really, I really do mean it because I see so much nonsense in the space. But I'm glad you stick around while I try my best to make sure that we are all on some type of a right path. At the moment, the market's going up. It's like a sideways up, if you kind of want to say that. Bitcoin is very close again to 200 billion US dollars as a market cap. It is currently at 10,633 US dollars. I assume this mini dip right here has to do with the stock markets in the States have not yet opened. Maybe there's some type of an indication that the futures market is flashing red, and therefore crypto is also flashing red as well. This is just my speculation. I haven't actually looked at the prices of the futures yet. Chainlink is up by 14%. Cardano's up by almost 11%. No real news on Cardano and as to why. Maybe something is happening behind the scenes. It could just simply be people are like, okay, we love Cardano, and therefore the price is going up. Tron is up by 3%. Anything other like anomalies really going on? Theta is up by 16%. Sure, why not? Yeah, they're all mimicking like this slight dip that Bitcoin is having right now, but they're all magnetically tied to it. So any movement upward will be closely followed, and anything going down will also be mimicked as well. I sincerely do hope that you all enjoyed. I'm glad that I got that out of my system. I'm glad that I got to speak, because a lot of times I try and not breeze through it, but I try to make sure that, you know, whatever. But it's Friday, and I was like, you know what? Let's completely go for it. I think these things have to be said, especially for those of you who are listening to this as like a podcast. I mean, you haven't. I have no idea how long I've been doing this now, but you have at least over an hour long of a podcast to be able to walk down the street with and listen to as you're going about your daily motions. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We will get there eventually. I don't know when. I don't know how. But all the metrics are there. It's clear that we are undervalued as a market. I think what the guy said in the podcast, he was like, when the prices do go up, it's gonna like scorch faces. It was a really weird term that he used. It was kind of like blow people back, like a cannon or something like that. Like people won't be able to understand why it's happening. And this is, I guess, why I rant about what I do, because it's so, I guess if you're in the cryptocurrency space, and I guess more so if you listen to the words I say, you understand why the price is going to go insane. It's no longer like a question of like, why would Bitcoin go up? It's a very clear understanding that the market is going to go completely insane at some point, even if based off of nothing more than a constrained supply. I do hope you all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Shout out to the person yesterday who was like, go buy a brownie, go get some chips. I forgot what else I said, but he said it perfectly. Thank you for listening to the whole video. It was actually, I've actually found it quite funny that you were like, go buy a brownie, because chocolate's great. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.